Bing Crosby's "I'll Be Home for Christmas" is one of the most popular Christmas songs. It was written to honor soldiers overseas during World War II who longed to be home at Christmas time. And the lyrics are meant to be a letter from a soldier to his family. In the message, he tells them, "I'll be home for Christmas. You can plan on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents by the tree." Yet his letter ends on somewhat of a melancholy note, as he writes, "I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams." That song became the most requested song at all the USO Christmas shows, as so many of our servicemen and women longed for home during those difficult and dark days. The GI magazine Yank said Bing Crosby accomplished more for military morale than anyone else of that era. This year, being home for Christmas might look a lot different for many of us. Some of us will be longing for family members who won't be home with us. Others will be overjoyed that our loved ones were able to make it home for the holidays. Certainly for us as a church family, our longing to be here, home, on this most holy night of the year. Our morale is running low and in need of a boost. Longing to be home, if only in our dreams, seems to be a very fitting theme song for Christmas 2020. Long ago in Bethlehem, Mary and Joseph longed to be home with Joseph's family in time for Jesus to be born. The journey from Nazareth to Bethlehem took 100 miles through some of the most desolate country on earth. As Luke tells us, Mary was great with child, which means she was in her 9th month of pregnancies. And as those pregnant mothers amongst us would tell us, that is the stage where you just can't get comfortable, no matter what you do. Walking hurts, standing hurts, sitting hurts, lying down hurts. Eating is hard, even breathing is difficult. So just imagine riding on a donkey on a hard, rocky path that ran along the Jordan River. As historians note, Mary and Joseph couldn't have taken the short route through Samaria, because as we know, Jews wouldn't have anything to do with those Samaritans. So instead, to get from Nazareth in the north to Bethlehem in the south, you traveled east to the Jordan River, followed the valley south to Jericho, and then went up the Jericho road through the mountains to Jerusalem, and then south again to Bethlehem. Most of the journey through desolate wilderness and upon dangerous roads. So we can only wonder what this teenage couple, about to give birth to their first child, could have been thinking as they made the long, arduous, and risky journey home to be with family. All the way praying Mary wouldn't give birth all alone in the middle of nowhere. And then how elated and relieved must they have felt when they finally did make it safely home to Bethlehem. Yet their joy quickly turned to shock and dismay when they see that all of Joseph's other relatives had also made it home, because they too had come to enroll in the census. And Mary and Joseph are promptly told there wasn't any room for them in the inn. Now, wild legend has created a whole different scene of Mary and Joseph being turned away by a grumpy innkeeper. That word inn in Greek is kataluna, and it means guest room. If you remember the story of the Good Samaritan, the wounded man was taken to an inn. The Greek word there was pandakion, which is what we imagine as some sort of hotel. But here Luke is specific, saying there was no room for them in the kataluna, the guest room. Just like most of our homes, a typical Mideastern house had a designated room for overnight visitors. And it would have been unthinkable in terms of Middle Eastern hospitality for out-of-town relatives to be sent to an inn by their own family members. So by the time Mary and Joseph arrive, there is no more room in the guest room, but rather than being sent out into the cold to fend for themselves, Mary and Joseph stayed in another part of the house, in an outer room, where the family animals would sleep at night for safekeeping. It was in this outer room where the manger, the feeding trough, was located. Come morning, the animals would be taken out, the room would be swept clean, and then it would be used for other family activities. It's a very different picture than what we have come to imagine, with Jesus being born in an isolated stable surrounded by animals. It's much more likely he was in the front room of a home, with plenty of doting aunts and uncles standing around the manger, ready to welcome him into the family. And while everyone around them is celebrating the birth of their son, a son at that who would carry on the family lineage, Mary and Joseph have made their long journey home with the promises of God ringing in their ears. So they knew that the birth of this child wouldn't only alter the course of their lives. The birth of their firstborn son would alter the course of human history. Because in the babe lying in the manger, the God of creation came to dwell, to abide, to make his home within and amongst us. As we heard, Mary and Joseph's journey home was filled with risk and faith, fear and hope, curiosity and wonder, darkness and light. Yet their entire journey home was overshadowed by the Holy Spirit, for whom they had made room in their hearts when they both said yes. Yes to the future that God had planned for them. Before we can feel at home anywhere, or in whatever circumstances we find ourselves, we must first be at home with God. So on this most holy night, we are home for Christmas. If only there's plenty of room in our hearts and lives to receive him. If only we say our own yes to a journey of risk and faith, fear and hope, curiosity and wonder, darkness and light. If only we trust God's promise that the Holy Spirit will overshadow us, altering our future into a future pregnant with hope and joy for what God has planned for our lives. Will you be home for Christmas?